Thank Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hour 5 of the CosmoQuest Hangout-a-thon. This hour, it is Amy Milsner, and I totally just changed your last name. Liner. I know what your last name is.
Mlinar.
Okay,
Mlinar.
I failed.
Just think Miller and then say Mlinar.
Okay. There has to be someone every event whose name I destroy. I am very sorry. Um, I am joined by my colleague, Amy, who is located in Europe and is new to the CosmoQuest community and is going to be part of bringing back our Educator Zone content. And this is what we're going to be talking about, what we're working to build this hour. Jason Bott may be able to join us. I know that he is dealing with dueling events all weekend because none of us have just one job. This is actually something I want to start with. So we're doing a fundraiser. And there is this idea that people who work in the sciences teach some classes and then they spend the rest of their time dedicated to their research with occasional grading of papers. But that gets handed to a grad student. And the reality is so very different from what we see in movies. And the reality right now is because folks like Amy and I work off of a myriad of different funding and aren't full-time paid at the Planetary Science Institute, we all have side hustles. I paint art. I just finished being a technical editor for Wiley for a book that they have coming out soon. And so like somebody else wrote the book and they need someone to go through and read and do the fact checking. And so I was the fact checker and equation checker and all the other checker. We all have all these different side hustles, and you have some side hustles that we really enjoy hearing about. Allie's in the background smiling at everything. Can you tell everyone a little bit more about who you are as a human?
Yeah. So I have a PhD in astrophysics, and I worked as like a pure researcher, just writing grants, doing research, writing code, writing papers, for about 5 years before becoming a university professor. I was a prof for about 3 years before my husband and I decided to move to Europe, or rather to spend large chunks of time in Europe, for personal reasons. And we have been going back and forth, but primarily in Europe for, I don't know, a little more than 10 years now. And along with the spending more time in Europe, I decided to transition all of my grant money and all my projects to the Planetary Science Institute, which allows people to work on research from anywhere in the world, which is generally not a common thing. A lot of scientific research is viewed as like a very sort of nationalistic enterprise, and so lots of countries, they don't want their citizens working on science in other countries. The United States is somewhat of an exception to that. So yeah, I was fortunate to be able to move my stuff to PSI. But then,
I'm muted.
the pandemic happened, and I had 2 children, and I think lots of people go through a time, when they have kids where, their priorities shift. And certainly I think also people, priorities shifted during the pandemic. And so when I came out the other end of that, I had already been working in a lot of education related stuff. My side hustle for 25 years was to work with a nonprofit organization that runs summer enrichment programs for gifted high school kids. And after the pandemic and in the years following that, education started to become more important to me. And then it became very extremely important to me personally when our son started school. it became really, really important not only to me but also my husband. So we actually have started an education company called the Young Talents Lab, which you can find us on Google, you can find us on Instagram and Amazon. And we just feel very strongly that there's a lack of high quality educational materials for young children in math and science. So we actually decided to do something about that. So that's kind of, my side hustle of my side hustle became one of my main hustles. And I also work as the director of partnerships for an organization called Equitech Futures based in Chicago, which is a really wonderful group of people who are interested in helping to find talent and incubate companies from kids all around the world, sort of aged 18 to 25, who are interested in using AI and science to solve problems in their local communities. So I would say that right now, my overarching theme for what I'm doing is that I'm working with kind people to do big things in education.
Can you also talk closer to your mic to do louder audio of big things into streams?
Yes. So we, I would, and what Allie and I are laughing about all the time.
I'm not sure you're using the mic you think you're using because you didn't change the volume at all.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but you're not as loud as one would wish for.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me try closing the door. Because we have Disney princess background noise here. That could be part of it. Hold on a second.
So I think Zoom is auto-doing her audio a lot of harm. We're working on it. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Audio is our nemesis.
Can you guys hear?
Yeah.
Is it better?
I don't think anything changed. I think this is actually just Zoom doing you dirty.
Try turning off your noise cancellation.
Well, okay, I can talk louder and I can lean closer to the mic. Is that better?
It literally doesn't change anything. So
noise suppression.
It's the noise suppression feature in Zoom. If you can turn off the noise suppression feature in Zoom, that would probably fix it.
Hold on. You get it?
It weirdly sounds absolutely identical. So Guido, we have boosted absolutely everything we can boost.
Yeah, like literally
Okay,
everything is maxed out. Everything.
I see the noise removal is on.
Yeah, turn that
Let's
off.
see if I can turn it off. Hold on just a second.
And you're on a Windows machine, which means it may okay, I can unboost me. That's easy.
Wait, hold on just a sec. Okay, is that better?
It has changed absolutely nothing. It's kind of wild at how it has changed nothing. So you're on a Windows machine?
Yeah, try that.
So I'm going to pull my mic further away and ask everyone to turn their volume up because I think what's happening is your computer is auto-adjusting the volume to keep it absolutely the same no matter what you do.
Hold on.
This was a problem Fraser and I hit for a while, which is...
Wait, how's that?
That is better, yes.
Got it. I got you. Okay. No, that's good. All right. Okay. Is that it? Can you guys hear me?
I hear you better. Hopefully the audience will too. There's a bit of lag. Okay, we're hearing that it is better. So to bring us back to where we were, one of the things that has really gotten me over the years is organizations like NASA, the National Science Foundation. They will give you, it used to be most grants were 4 years. You could get 5 years if you ask nicely. Now it's more like most grants are 3 years. You can get 4 years if you ask nicely. And a lot fewer people are funded. And when you get the money to develop educational materials, curriculum, and my life was transformed by a National Science Foundation project back in the 80s called Scientific Teaching Through Its Astronomical Roots. It was an astronomical curriculum that got put together by a research team at Harvard, and I was one of the test candidates for it. And these can be amazing curriculum, but when the grant runs out,
Yeah.
there's no one maintaining it. There's often the websites get pulled. And this has happened to CosmoQuest, and we're now working to undo what happened.
Yeah.
We developed curriculum with NASA funding. We lost the NASA funding, and I couldn't even support the website anymore, which is what now, just like we've done with our podcasts, we have Astronomy Cast is 19 years old. We have had continual funding for 19 years because we rely on our community and corporate sponsors to take care of us. And so you and I are here because we want to build that kind of a long-term educational future.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that we're currently in a moment in the United States where, funding priorities are shifting, and I think that this is a time where kind of the funding landscape for education is shifting, like all the way from from K-12 education through higher education, formal and informal things like CosmoQuest. And I think that this is a moment when, people really have to step up and vote with their dollars for what they want to see supported. It's very cheap to go on to ChatGPT and generate a script for a basically completely fake scientific article and documentary and like shove that through an algorithm and put up something on YouTube with a fake AI voice narration. That's very cheap. Whereas having scientists come in, talk about the content, answer questions, explain things from a first principles point of view, approach the problem from multiple different angles, be able to answer technical questions, that's what people need in education, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
And I think, again, I think people have to really think about what it is that they want to support and what do they want their kids learning and what do they want to learn from. You vote with your clicks, you vote with your likes, and you vote with your wallet on what you want to support. And so, I think people have to stand up for the quality materials that they want. Otherwise they'll go away. We can't rely on government funding sources to support these kinds of things anymore. At the same time, in certain sectors in the United States, there's plenty of money flying around. And so, if any of those people happen to be watching this or listening to this, I would say, if you want the United States to continue to be a leader in science, you need to financially support the things that you think are of high quality and are well done. It's as simple as that. The US government, by making the decision to pull the funding on these things, has put it in the hands of the people. So, like, literally in the hands of the people. So I think people are in a place now where they can really make a lot of change, which maybe is a good thing.
And this is one of those things where we used to say, be the change you want to see in the world. I have a print of a Banksy graffiti that said, keep your coins, I want change. And we here at CosmoQuest are people who are working hard to be the change we want to see in the world. But ultimately it costs money to accomplish things. And one of the things that we really want to do, and sorry, the pillow that is behind me, it reached the end of my toleration for it, so I'm apparently just going to be using my muscles to not sink all the way into this chair and removing the pillow. It's an informal presentation today. And so we realized over the years that when we go into informal science communities, or science fiction communities, we encounter a lot of teachers. So I'll give a presentation someplace like Dragon Con, Balticon, where Allie and I will be in May probably. We're both shaky on it.
If they actually get back to me about being a panelist.
Yeah, so Allie's still waiting for Balticon to agree to her being a guest of con. So if anyone from Balticon is here, there's an email from Allie. Respond to it. So when we go and we give presentations at these events, we have teachers coming up to us and saying, "Hi, I'm a teacher. They want to help. They want their classrooms involved. They want to do things." And we've realized that it is possible to partner with these science fiction events to do teacher professional development at cons, to do...
That's a different hour. That's a different segment.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about this more in a different hour. But what we're talking about mostly in the other hour is I'm being handed things.
Production notes.
Okay. So we're looking to do more talking, to do booths, to do all the things we used to do, and we're going to be discussing that in a different hour. But one of the things we're also looking to do is bring back the teacher professional development and reach teachers in the places where they are. And you work with teachers, and Masquerade is one on the side, Amy. What are the resources that like teachers desperately need and just aren't there right now?
So for context, I foolishly agreed to take on a gig as a middle school science teacher as a maternity leave replacement at my son's school. So this has been a real eye-opening experience for me because I've been kind of on the periphery of K-12 education for a long time. I mean, it makes me smile, Pamela, when you talk about how your life was transformed by an NSF project, because my life was transformed as a child by two NSF projects. One was a curriculum development program run out of the SETI Institute, I was an intern that was testing the curriculum out when I was like 12, 13 years old. So that changed my life. And then my life was changed again by an NSF Young Scholars program. And that's Young Scholars is a thing that got killed like sometime in the 90s, late 90s, and has never come back. And yeah, I think, when I started teaching, I was handed a canned curriculum, and it's an international curriculum that is not used widely in the United States, which is why I mentioned all of this context. But it immediately irritated me. Like it's full of errors. It's it has like a glossary, and you go to the glossary and like the definitions of the words are wrong. Like you go to the index and the page numbers in the index are incorrect. I mean, it's like ridiculous. And like my opinion and what I've seen with the other teachers at this school, what I've seen them doing is, they're going to the web and they're looking for stuff like worksheets and things to print. They're looking for things that are ready for the classroom, because teachers everywhere, whether they're in the United States, whether they're in other countries, whether it's a public school or private school, it doesn't matter. Teachers everywhere are overworked, underpaid, under-resourced, and they need things that they can immediately translate into the classroom, and they need things that make sense and are scientifically accurate. And I would say that from what I've seen, like my own journey trying to find, chemistry worksheets for fifth graders online, it's a disaster. So I think, teachers need things like that. They also need classroom ready materials that can really inspire kids. I mean, this is like again, something that I didn't realize until I started teaching in the classroom. As a teacher, you're competing against the entirety of the internet for the kids' attention. Even if even if they don't have a device, if they don't have like a phone or a tablet in the classroom, you're still competing against the internet. Because for every fact that you deliver as a teacher, there's one kid in the classroom who has heard an adjacent fact on YouTube, and then will try to tie it in with what you're mentioning in the classroom. And it's like, so, you know, like, how do you compete against that, right? Like, how with a whiteboard marker or a set of PowerPoint slides in a classroom do you compete against, you know, some slick, professionally edited video that the kids watched online? There's almost no way to compete against that. So I think, hands-on activities that bring in areas of science where, the students might not be expecting to be able to learn that, right? Like, I taught my fifth graders about like exoplanets. They were completely fascinated. They had heard about it, but they didn't know what it was. It's not part of the general curriculum for that class. That was like one of the lessons that we did that was the most interesting, that kept their attention the longest. Those kinds of things I think really help. The kids, they need to have hands-on stuff. They need to be feeling like the work that they're doing is like cutting edge, interesting. You have to bring in something that's sufficiently interesting to capture their attention and essentially make them focus on what's happening in the classroom and not think about something that they read on the internet, or not watch the internet while they're sitting in class. It's a major challenge.
And one of the real problems with teaching things that are related to space sciences is the rate of discovery greatly exceeds textbook publication timelines.
Oh yeah.
And so one of the things we talk about on Astronomy Cast periodically is the timeline for research is you come up with an idea, you submit a grant, and there might be 6 months to a year between getting the idea and submitting the grant.
Yeah.
Then you might get the funding a year later. And then you might be to the point of publishing your results 3 years later. So from coming up with the idea to finishing, getting things through peer review, you're looking at 5 or more years. But when it comes to publishing a textbook, they hire someone. That someone usually gets 1 to 3 years, depending on what kind of textbook they're doing. And then it goes through the publication, it has to go through the adoption, and it's probably going to be used for multiple years. And so, best case, the first words written in that book could be, best case, 3 years old.
Yeah.
And our understanding of the core of our planet changed last week.
Yeah.
So
Got another $5 a month subscriber on our Patreon.
we got another $5 a month subscriber on Patreon. Thank you. You now have Bottomless Science coming to you. And I'm reminded I have coffee in my cup. No, I don't. I lied. I have no coffee in my cup. Allie is going to rescue my empty coffee cup for me. I have wonderful humans in my house. So with CosmoQuest, we have the potential to engage students in a way that not a lot of them get. We allow them to look at original science data of other worlds. We encourage them to think about how we know what we know about other worlds. And there's a rating party from Volcano Dock This is researcher Melissa Scruggs. She and I, along with Rocket Sage, are working on a research paper looking at how people are inspired to learn from being here on Twitch. Welcome, and she is a research professor studying volcanoes, as the name might imply, and I'm desperate to talk to her about the Haile Gubi volcano in Ethiopia that decided not to be extinct last week. Welcome, Raiders, welcome. So I was just saying, we work, Amy, you and I, in a field where we get to work with spacecraft. And when we develop educational materials, we invite learners to work with spacecraft data. And how transformative is it? I know what it was like for me I was looking at data just on discovering asteroids. How transformative is it for learners to get to work with original data?
Well, I think it's something really special. I think that kids really respond to that. I mean, especially, I think there's two aspects to it. I think the first is that when they see, images of planets, when they see images of galaxies, other astronomical phenomena, I think it hits them on a level like that. They're not used to seeing those things. They're not used to thinking about what the surface of an asteroid might look like, what a galaxy merger might look like. But I think the other part, so there's just kind of this overall sense of wonder. But I think the second thing that it does for kids is that it makes them feel important.
Yeah.
It makes them feel like, they're doing real stuff that really matters, that someone values their opinion, that they're allowed to work on stuff that, a professional scientist would be doing. I think that gives the kids, this feeling of, being competent and, being important and being valued. And I think I think kids kids obviously need that. And lots of kids don't have that kind of opportunity in a traditional classroom setting. And it opens up a pathway for success for kids who may not be successful in other arenas in school. The same, hands-on learning does the same thing as well. Like if, I'm thinking about, I recently did just the egg drop experiment with the students in my class. And, there's one student who was just very quiet and she doesn't really say much. And, she just completely destroyed like all the other kids. Like all of her designs were really good. And, she's also really good at building electrical circuits and stuff, like much better than the top of the class kid, who gets an A on every test. And so, kids need to feel important, and they also need to have multiple pathways to success. And I think that, working with spacecraft data really gives them that sense. I do want to point out also that I think that kind of effect is amplified, particularly for kids in countries where the space program is either non-existent or, is very small. I think in the United States, like people kind of take it for granted that there's a space program and they're kind of like, oh yeah, NASA, whatever. But, in other countries where there is no space program, it's really special. It's really, really special for kids to get to do something like that. They really appreciate it.
And something we get to do when our stuff is funded privately is we can take advantage of what's happening in the moment. Mm-hmm. When you have a specific National Science Foundation grant to develop a specific curriculum, you have put in a funding request to do something, you've outlined it, you've given timelines, and there's always some flexibility in it, but you can't suddenly say, oh, the sun is being wildly active right now. Let's deviate all of our plans and real fast put out something related to Aurora.
Yeah.
We currently aren't in a position to do that, nor should I be someone doing that because I do not know enough about Aurora. But we know the people who do. And if we were in the right position, if we had the funding, when the funding comes from private sources, it gives you a nimbleness and a responsiveness that is more like what a small business has instead of what a federally funded project that is moving like a cargo ship. They're just two different kinds of building things.
Yeah. 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 Well, yeah, I think that's really true. I think that's really true. Yeah, I mean, doing work on curriculum development with federal funding comes with a lot of restrictions. Um, you know, and one thing that I think makes it really difficult, and I mean, it's painful, but if you want your stuff to be adopted, in the classroom, like, you also have to make sure that it like fits in with the, curriculum standards and everything. And, that takes time. That's very difficult. I think with private funding, you're right. You can rapidly make materials that are responsive to things that are, recent discoveries that are in the news, that are new priorities. I think that we're going to see a rapid increase in the pace of innovation in science, driven by these advances in computing, and that makes it even more important for privately funded and agile, fast curriculum development to be possible, because if the pace of science is going to increase, the pace of education has to increase along with it. Otherwise, we risk educating kids for a world that doesn't exist anymore, for a world that existed, 5 years ago, right? I mean, think about what the world was like 5 years ago. We were just, through the first year of the pandemic, and think about how things have changed since then, in terms of, how people are consuming information, how people are looking up science facts online, how they're, who are the authorities, who do they trust? All that whole landscape is different. So it's good to be able to be responsive and to be able to update content. I was laughing when you mentioned that earlier about, the life cycle of a project, or the life cycle of a, publishing a book, for example. I don't know if anyone out there ever took planetary science out of a textbook called The New Solar System by Andy Chaikin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Andy's amazing.
It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful book, but it has to be updated like every 2 years. Because it's like, there's my thesis advisor and I used to joke, it's like, there's the new solar system, but then there's like the next edition is the new solar system. And then, because they get new images of Mars, or they get new images of, Jupiter, and the whole book basically has to be redone. And yeah, with private funding, you can rapidly create things, but you can also decide that your priorities have changed and pursue different avenues, based on discoveries that have come out. I think that that's really crucial. And at some level, my most optimistic hope is that we might see a renaissance in good educational materials if people start seeking private funding to develop them. It's possible. Will it happen? I don't know, but it's possible.
And we're really working to figure that out here at CosmoQuest. We have curriculum that are aligned to U.S. national standards as well as to international baccalaureate standards that were built with the United Nations there's a set of educational goals that they have that I've just completely forgotten the name of. And if I screw up, the climate change standards name is going to come out. So I'm not going to say which set of standards with the UN. And by working towards these standards, it makes it easier for teachers to say, hey, there's this cool thing I want to build towards. And we just are in a position where we just need to update things and get them out there and then maintain them, knowing we're not at the whim of federal funding and being able to maintain them. And I would love to be in a position where we also say, we're looking for this amount of money that we're going to use to take advantage of teachable moments. There's a very important teachable moment going on right now with 3I Atlas. This is an interstellar comet that we suspect there is somewhere between 6 and a dozen asteroids and comets and the transitory objects in between them that originated outside of our solar system, that pass through our solar system every year. And we just don't catch most of them because the sky is big and they can be coming from any direction. And everyone's fully expecting, as soon as Rubin Observatory starts doing its large survey of space and time, we will start finding out about these things on the regular. But 3I Atlas was not going to be lazy and wait for Rubin. It needed to be found now. And unfortunately, we live in a time when clicks lead, and where you have people clicking on articles about 3I Atlas potentially being an alien spacecraft, both because they're angry at the title and because they're curious about the title. The algorithm is like, well, clearly this is what everyone should be reading, and those are the things that get increased through the search engines, increased through the algorithm. And I would love to be able to put together classroom explainers of, no, really, this is a completely usual, unusual object, and respond in the moment to these teachable events in space science.
Yeah, and I think teachers want to do that as well. And they need to have somewhere that they can go, that they trust, to answer these kinds of questions. Because I think, fortunately, we're still in a situation where most teachers know that, they are competing against the internet for their students' attention, and that most of that kind of stuff that's out on the internet is wrong. And so having, like, high quality materials developed by people who are educated in the field it's even more important now than it was even 5 years ago. I mean, I think that's the fallacy with AI. People don't understand is, well, you don't need to learn anything anymore because the AI will just tell you everything. Like, no, actually, you need more critical thinking skills, and you need more high quality educational materials now in the age of AI than we did before, because we need to teach the kids like what's real and what's not. And they need to have really good critical thinking skills. And to do that, we have to equip teachers with curriculum that they can use that's good. It's really important. I mean, it's so important, like, to me personally, that my husband and I started a company around that. So, This is crucial. This is crucial. Like, if we lose this moment now, we may not get another moment again.
And when you work on private funds, you can work globally.
Yeah.
And as I've said several times today already, if it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a global community to raise our understanding of the universe. And that is both on the side of increasing what we scientifically know, but also increasing what our population understands about that universe. We need to work on both together.
Yeah.
And this is what we want to do. And we're always going to struggle with time zones. But everyone, no matter what time zone you're in, is always going to be welcome. And I will misplace you occasionally. And I'm very sorry. And I will also misplace myself. Lost in time is just what we do around CosmoQuest. Now, today is the kickoff event for our annual fundraising. This is not something we're going to complete in 2 days. I wish it was. It's not. Our real goal is to get all of you out there to join our Patreon. We want to get that up to $2,500 a month pledged contributions. We want, if you are able, give more, and we will stretch it as far as we can to expand our understanding, to expand what we do, to expand who we serve. And Amy and I and Jason and all the CosmoQuest team, we're bringing on Stina to help keep us organized. We're going to work on trying to increase how we're funded, to diversify things so that we aren't at the whim of a congressional pen stroke removing what we're doing. I want to build this future. Amy, I think you want to build this future. And together we can accomplish amazing things. What is the very first thing that you as a teacher would want CosmoQuest to hand you?
Honestly, like PowerPoint slides, worksheets on like the planets, geology on the planets, what planets have been visited when, what's a comet, what's an asteroid, like extremely basic stuff written for like a non-native English speaking language, or learners rather, people who are where English is not their first language. That's really a challenge. And there's lots of stuff out there, but Pamela, as you said, it's woefully out of date.
Mm-hmm.
In many cases, it's not actually correct. And it's like, it's so overly simplified that it makes it sort of, it like infantilizes the students. They know that they're being spoon-fed a limited amount of information, of facts, and they know that they're being talked down to and given the runaround, and so they don't want to engage with the material, essentially. So, as a teacher, that's what I would want.
And it all makes so much sense to build. The thing that occurs to me, the most popular thing we've done with Astronomy Cast is a series on, it was a tour of the solar system. We worked on it, I want to say, during our second season, which would have been 2007-ish. And we've gone through and we've updated things here and there where we provided an update to our original episodes. And we're considering going back and just doing a new tour through the solar system, starting from ground zero with modern knowledge. Because in the years since we did those initial recordings, we've sent spacecraft after spacecraft. We've built new telescopes. We've developed new facilities. We've developed new computational models. It's time to revisit this. And if we have the ability to side by side with doing that, to create classroom materials with CosmoQuest partnering our projects, that has the potential to be powerful.
Yeah.
These are all tractable things we can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you as a researcher have worked on icy moons, one of the coolest things out there, and that came out punnier than intended. These are worlds that in so many cases we're finding have liquid water beneath their surface they like to spray out at passing spacecraft.
If we're lucky, yeah.
What of your science do you wish that everyone in the world knew about? And
Well,
can
I honestly, I wish that, like, I wish that little kids got to be fascinated by planets other than Mars, and that they knew about planetary science other than reading about, bombastic, privately funded billionaires running space programs. And I think that there's like a whole, there's a whole story there about how, we went from like the Voyager spacecraft with Galileo and Cassini, and now, later generation missions like Juno, and, are starting to develop an understanding of what's happening in the outer solar system. And, actually it's interesting, the first icy world that came into my mind, Pamela, when you asked me that, was actually Titan, which is not an icy world that I've worked on extensively, but it's, like, you can land on Titan.
Yeah.
You can aerobrake and land on Titan softly. And it, like, the atmospheric pressure on Titan is actually like comparable to that of Earth. Like, there's no oxygen there, and it's very, very cold, but like, you don't have to wear a huge pressure suit, and you don't have to worry about getting fried by, cosmic radiation on Titan the way that you do on Mars. Those are the kinds of things that I wish students could learn about. Because again, they're learning mostly from social media.
Yeah.
From, clickbait, shock headlines and all of this, ridiculousness. I mean, we live in a society now where basically it just whoever is the loudest and most bombastic wins. And, that doesn't really do well for our kids' imaginations and, for our society as a whole. And so I wish that, we could really spend, I would love to spend like 3 or 4 weeks in the classroom talking about the outer solar system. I think the kids would find it really fascinating. Again, like, most of the questions that I get from my students asking about astronomy, they're asking about things that they read about in the headlines. So it would be cool to give them some kind of understanding of, the modern version of how we think the giant planets formed, how we think the moons of the giant planets formed, what we think is there, what may be places that we could go explore with crewed missions, things like that. Maybe they'll see that in their lifetime.
And there
It'd be
could
wonderful.
be a Mars-sized planet out there among the icy chunks beyond Neptune, and it could be found in the next decade. That's amazing to me.
Mom, can I have Mike and Baby?
Sorry, my little one is here. She's on all of the calls.
It's okay. We are a very child-friendly organization. It was fun working with Phil Plait and Fraser Kane while they were both stay-at-home dads for their kids, and knowing that any telecon I was on could abruptly end should a child need them. And
Yep.
we leave space for that here.
Well, it happens. It's this is life. This is
Yeah.
life now. It's different, but it's great.
Yeah. And this has been a great session. And we need to wrap it up, make space for the next session to start up. We have a wild kitten has appeared in the room. Ms. Brick Kitten and Malachi have entered the basement. They're nowhere near any camera, though.
Why not?
I don't... So Ms. Brick Kitten is coming over here. I've completely sabotaged my office. That's a camera.
That's a camera?
Yes.
This one.
That one's turned off. This right here is a camera. This box.
There's no way I can get there.
There. That right there.
Who are you looking for? Who are
There.
you working with? Hi, everyone. What
So-
am I looking at?
We have Dr. Amy has joined us. We are talking about the Educator Zone. We're wrapping things up. Malachi is very jealous right now because I am getting all of Ms. Brick Hitten's he's crying. He doesn't know how to get up.
Look at there. Where is your rolling pin?
The rolling pin should be top left drawer next to the oven. And if you don't see it there, it is underneath in one of the drawers. It's to the left of the oven.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a bit afraid.
You should be.
All right. Amy and Ms. Brickhitten are feeding Allie and I all weekend.
Annie.
What did I say?
Amy.
Oh, good Lord. There are now 3 A's involved in our team.
You said that I was feeding you, which I definitely am not. I mean, I can
No.
order you guys some Pizza Hut or something if you want, but
All right.
No, Annie Wilson.
it's a bit of a long distance call.
It's true. It's
All
true.
Well,
Oh.
I'm on the other side of the planet, where the sun has already gone down and
Yeah.
the moon is up in the sky. So I'm gonna sign off. But it was really
Thank
really
you.
nice chatting with everybody today. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to be on tomorrow, but I brought to you guys one of my college friends, Sarah Milkovich from JPL, formerly
Yes.
of JPL, who's going to be talking to you guys about Mars a little bit. Sarah is one of my all-time favorite people on the planet. So hopefully you should have a good time tomorrow. So I won't be there, but I brought Sarah to you.
We are good with that. Thank you. And thank
All
you to
right.
everyone out in the audience. We are going to roll those rockets, which are not robots, and be back in just a few minutes. Thank you.